Hey guys, after watching this video, you will no longer have any questions about what to play against the Caro-Kann defense. You will love when your opponents play 1c6 against 1e4, because I'm about to show you a great variation, a crazy opening prep that I borrowed from none other than JOSPEM, Jose Martinez Alcantara, a very famous online chess player and also offline, but he has been most notable due to his online victories, and he's also recently played 2 matches against Kramnik. But let's not get into this topic. Let's just check out my game from the last round at Oskemen Open. I'm really proud of this prep. And my opponent, after 20 moves, she had like 10 minutes remaining because she didn't know what to do, even though she's a very strong player. So you will not be disappointed with this variation. So I'm playing in the last round. As you may know, this hasn't been the most successful tournament for me. If you watched the previous recaps, you've seen my 4 losses in a row, for example, in the first half of the tournament. In the second half, I've been doing quite a bit better, but still, I wanted to finish on a high note. And I'm playing a Chinese lady, Du Yuxin, who is again higher rated than me, like most players in this tournament, and she is criminally underrated, like everyone in China. For example, she drew a Tan Zhongni, which is an impressive feat. If you don't know, Tan Zhongni is a former world chess champion among females, and this year she's the contender for the crown. So yeah, Du Yuxin plays the Caro-Kann, and I thought, what should I play? Last round, if you watched my recap, I played the Magnus setup with knight f3, d5, d3, and we went into this end game. And I didn't play the best chess, but I managed to draw. And this time I wanted to play for a win, of course. As always, I always try to play for a win. And I thought that she will prepare for knight f3, d5, d3, because she will take a look at my games from the previous round. They are all available. And I thought I should play something new. And I decided to borrow some opening prep from JOSPEM. This is what he plays. Not just here, but he is the most well-known proponent of this line. Although Jan Nepomniachtchi, Alireza Firouzja, and many other players started playing this variation as well. So this is the variation. This is the standard Caro-Kann position, classical line, advanced variation. Here there are many moves. c5, for example, is one of the moves, but most people go bishop f5. And I checked before many games of my opponent, and in all of them she went here. And h4 is the Tal variation, named after Mikhail Tal. The idea is that if black does nothing here, for example e6, then black loses the bishop, so this is not wise. Here the main moves are h6 or h5, and I've checked the games of my opponent, and I saw that she always goes for h5, so I was prepared for this. I go bishop d3. This is one of the moves, the one that JOSPEM likes. Takes. And most people these days, at the top at least, go queen a5 check. This is the best move. There are some subtleties. There is the second best move is e6, but there is bishop g5, and I get the tempo on the queen, and then I will be able to develop, and white is a little bit better. This is why e6 is considered a little bit worse. Queen a5 check is the move employed by most top players, and the idea is that if you block like this or like this or like this, like continuous development, and the position is very balanced. But here comes the gambit. Here comes the crazy prep. b4. It's a pawn sacrifice. Black can take, but white gains a lot of compensation. If black takes, this is a check, white blocks with a knight, and then there is a threat of rook b1 because the rook is protected by knight, and then b7 will fall. And turns out black has to find only moves to hold on to, even not equality, but at least to retain chances to equalize. The best move is e6, rook b1, and queen e7 to keep guarding this pawn. But look at this position. Just look at it. You don't even have to memorize any lines. Just look at this position. White is down a pawn, but black has no pieces activated. The queen is passive. It's stuck guarding this pawn. It's blocking her own bishop, so it will have to move once again to activate the bishop. And in the meantime, white has very pleasant game. White can go knight e2, knight f3, knight f4, knight g5, like castle if need be, maybe c4 breaking the center while opponent's king is in the center. And I prepared some lines against this. I will not show them because who knows, maybe my next opponent is watching this video. But I really like this variation and I thought, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. But I also thought that my opponent, being a professional experienced chess player, will probably realize that if she doesn't remember the lines against before, it's better to go queen a6, to offer a queen trade, try to go into an endgame, equal or more or less equal endgame. And here I prepared another important pawn sacrifice, e6. So she refuses to take my pawn, take another pawn then, e6. And the idea is, if she takes here, of course, it is fatal, because queen e6 check, white is already winning, devastating attack. So, of course, black has to take here, and you might think that white takes here with check in between move and then takes the queen. No, I don't need this f7 pawn. I take the queen. And you might think, oh, this is so horrible, those pawns, and you also give your pawn to black. What's the point? Well, the point is that black is horribly stuck here. How to activate the bishop if it's behind those pawns? How to control those dark squares? So the ideas for white are to go knight here, knight here, knight here, knight here, knight here, or knight here, and just dominate with the knights. The knights will be jumping, and black doesn't have much to do here. So here my opponent went into a deep think, and she thought for a long time. I went knight d2. Yeah, this is white to move, and now it's black to move, and she went for a deep think. And it's very important to go knight d2 first, not knight f3, which is an automatic move, because I need to put that knight on f3. This knight goes either to h3 or to e2, more often to e2, to control this square. And I will show you, you will see in the game how this all unfolds. This is not pleasant for black. She entered the deep think and she found one of the best moves in the position, giving back the pawn. Very professional, a very professional decision. Instead of suffering and letting me put the knight on e5, on e5 it would be an ideal square for the knight. She doesn't allow me this. She tries to break this bind, go e6 at the cost of a pawn. Now she has freed her bishop. Great decision. White is a little bit better here, but if black finds precise moves, maybe black will equalize. Let's see whether she managed this. I go rook b1, defending this pawn with the rook. Here the pawn is hanging. a3 would not be so good because a5 poses some problems. The pawn will again be hanging, and if I go rook b1, takes, and she will be able to infiltrate with the rook. So, or to a4, put more pressure. So a3 here is not good. Rook b1 is the best move, and I find it. She goes knight d7 development, and I continue my plan. I go d4 first of all to strengthen this pawn, and I go from d2 to f3. Very important, because this knight will rotate like this. So she activates her knight, but it doesn't matter. I activate my knight, and here, very instructive moment in the game. Again, I find the best move, bishop g5. My dark squared bishop is not very impressive because many of my pawns are on the dark squares, so it's wise to trade my dark squared bishop. And also, when she takes, I take with a knight, and my knight is putting some pressure. And it's very unpleasant to play with black. Here she already had like, I don't know, like 15 maybe minutes, because she tried to find some good continuation. She clearly wasn't liking her position, and I was very confident that I'm playing for two results only, a win or a draw. She defends the pawn. I go g3. It's a subtle move. The idea is that I want to castle first, then go rook d1, and then my e2 knight will no longer have to stay guarding the pawn because there will be a rook on d1, and then the knight will be able to go to f4. But first, I need to castle, but the rook is guarding this pawn. So to free the rook, I go g3. This is the idea. She tries to rotate the rook. I castle. Again, this is my plan. I go to d1 with the rook. She cannot really do anything because if she opens up lines here, it's not good for her in those variations. She rotates the knight back. Now I jump in with the knight to f4. Finally, the knight is free. It can jump to f4 and put pressure on those 2 pawns. The only way to defend both is g6. But look at the black's position. It's not hopeless. Of course, the computer will defend this. But white is dominating here. And here I find another best move according to the engine, a4. Taking more space on the queen side. If she goes b5, for example, I'll go a5. And she will have no play on the queen side, and I will slowly advance on the king side, put my king here, push the pawns, and win the game. You will see the evil bar reacts accordingly. So after a4, b5 is never an option. She tries to prepare some a5s here. Doesn't matter, I slowly walk my king to the center, because now I want to free my rook. I want to march with the king to defend this d4 pawn, because it's still under pressure, and then my rook will be free to infiltrate, or maybe via b file. So she goes for a5 here. It's important for her to create some counterplay, because otherwise I'll just if she does nothing, if she just stands with the king, I don't know, on e8, e7, I'll just march my king, then I'll double up with the rooks, then I can break through here, or I can break through here. So passive defense is a bad option almost always in chess. You shouldn't be passive. My opponent is again a professional with many years of experience, so she goes a5, trying to go for some counterplay. And of course here neither of us wants to take, because if I take, she'll take back and she will have this b file for herself. Same with me, but she's threatening to take now, because my rook is overloaded, is guarding the rook and is guarding the d4 pawn. That's why I was walking my king there. So first I have to drop back with my knight to overprotect this pawn. She's maneuvering, and I put my king on d3. Now finally the knight can drop back and the rook is free to do whatever she or he pleases. I don't know. In Russian, my native tongue, a rook is a she. In English, I don't think there are genders. You shouldn't assume genders of your pieces on the board. So king d8, she's just waiting, and she also has like 2 minutes on the clock by this time. She's in time trouble, and I have like 20 minutes. So I have a bit more time. I'm trying to calculate the winning sequence. I'm sure that I should be winning by this time, and the computer agrees, because she doesn't have any play, and I can just improve my position. Knight g5 is a good move to put pressure on e6 now. This is protected just once, so she has to add another defender. The king and the knight are defending this important pawn. And now I decide to first of all go rook c1, because the rook is no longer needed on the d file. Now it can put pressure here. She goes knight c7, because my potential idea was that if she goes here, for example, I can take on b8 and then take on c6, and I'm up a pawn and I will infiltrate and win the game. So of course she doesn't want that, and she goes knight e7 to overprotect here. Here I go f3. I choose a plan of advancing on the king side. f3, g4, h5, trying to form a passed pawns, because I have to do something. I'm very much better. My position is close to winning, but you can't just claim a technical victory in such a position. You have to make the moves and somehow win material or checkmate your opponent, stuff like that. The computer says that what I chose here was not the most precise idea. And of course I agree, because who am I to argue with a computer? The most precise idea would be to walk the king further to c3, and then to try and double up the rooks. She would have traded the rooks, for example, king c3. Let's say king d8. King d8 is impossible. She has to stay guarding the pawn. So maybe knight here is the move. But now I can go rook b3 and double up, or not double up. No, I can go rook b3. Sorry, I'm very tired. I'm missing stuff already. So no, I cannot go rook b3, but I can go knight d3, for example. This is the plan the computer proposes. Yeah, it's kind of logical. This is a good square for the knight, a new outpost. I somehow forgot about c5. Yeah, this is why after king c3, c5 for her is best. But I can just take, check, and I drop back. And we will trade the rooks. And once all the rooks are traded, the endgame is winning for me, because I can just walk with my king and probably infiltrate somehow. So that would be easier than what I did in the game. F3 allowed her to go for some counterplay, which she did. Very, very timely counterplay. Rook b4. I saw that move, but I thought that it's not a big deal because I take and I go g4 still. And my idea is, and also I thought that maybe she goes knight f5 here, and then I go g4, and her knight, even though she took a pawn, her knight is stuck, and I can go rook h1 sooner rather than later. I will catch and take this knight. So that was my idea. So that's why she doesn't go here, even though my pawns are weakened now. And she goes rook b4. She goes for counterplay. I have to take, otherwise she will double up and infiltrate. So I take. And here I should have gone a5, but I already had not much time. And of course I saw a5, but I didn't think that it's a good move. I thought I should continue with my plan with g4. And suddenly almost all my advantage has evaporated because she takes and goes rook a8, putting pressure on my pawn. I have to defend. I don't have to defend. Wow. I thought I have to defend. I went rook a1. But the computer says king e3 is the best move. Not caring about the pawn. And then knight d3, putting the knight on c5. Wow. Completely unhuman approach. I didn't want to risk losing this pawn, so I went rook a1. I still have some advantage, mind you. And c5 is a great move. I realized that she will go for this, but I couldn't prevent this. So this is probably why putting the knight on d3 earlier would have been a great idea, to prevent this idea. And I allowed it, and now she has counterplay. She sacked the pawn, but she goes knight c6, putting pressure on e5. And once I defend e5, she has rook a5, and she will grab the pawn back and push her b pawn, and she has some annoying counterplay here, which I don't like. And at this point we are both low on time. I have like 5 minutes on the clock. She has 1. She's playing on increment, 30 seconds added per move. This will be a very exciting finish. Stay tuned. So I go h5, pushing the pawn. She takes my pawn. I go knight g6 because I want my pawn to march to the queen in square faster. Turns out it was not the best choice, but already it's the computer says it's a draw if played correctly. But still, anything can happen. She checks me. I drop back. She checks me. I go forward. She goes b3. She could have repeated, but then I would have gone king f4 and I have a nice position. Also, she could have gone for some tactics like this. I calculated it. This is a fork, and I drop back and she takes, but I thought that this should be winning because I'll take the b pawn, and the rook is stronger than a knight, and I think she realized this as well. So here she went b3. I also thought that rook g2 is good here, and the computer agrees. Yeah, because if I go here, she'll take g7, check, king d3, king f7, controlling the square. Turns out I'm still better. I thought this is what she should have gone for. Never mind. This is just one of the variations. We have not enough time to calculate anything. We play on instinct, and she decides to go b3. Also perfectly nice move. She wants to go b2. She wants to, well, she will probably not queen, but this pawn will cost me some time, and in that time she will be able to win my g pawn. I go rook b1, b2, g7, trying to queen desperately, knight e7, controlling this queen in square. And now I go knight d4, attacking the rook. We are both playing on increment already. We don't have enough time, and anything can happen under such circumstances. So what do you think? How did they fare in the very end game? Did JOSPEM's hidden prep, secret prep help me? Well, let's see. Rook c3. This is a fatal mistake by her, but I don't utilize it. I should have gone king f2. I didn't realize that this is so important. The idea is that I disallow rook g3, but I thought that she might go rook c4, for example. But then I can take, and she cannot take the knight because this is winning for white. The knight is guarding the g8 square, so I have to get rid of it. So I saw this motif, but somehow I didn't realize that I have to go king f2 here. I thought I'll go king d2, attacking the rook. And now she goes rook c4, and again the best move for me is king e3, because if she checks, I can go to f2 again. This zigzag, I didn't think of it. I went king d3, and I didn't realize that the difference here is that she has this check, and she will be able to go to g3 later, and she checks me, and if I block with a knight or rook, doesn't matter, I will not be able to do the same idea with rook b7 that I just shown you. So I don't block, I drop back, but now she goes rook g3, and it's a draw. It's a draw with best play, because if I check her, she draws back, and if I take her, she'll just take, and the rook is controlling the queen in square. So I just take a pawn. At least I thought, okay, I'm up a pawn now, maybe I can win. And we are both playing with like 30 seconds on the clock. She made her previous move with like 5 seconds remaining on her clock. 30 seconds get added. She has 35 seconds, and with 35 seconds on her clock, she goes rook g6, and it's a fatal mistake. Of course, I don't have the evil bar during the game, unfortunately. I would have loved to, but I don't. I don't know that this was a mistake. I already resigned myself to a draw at this point, because I thought, yeah, she'll probably kick my knight away, and once it leaves the defense of g7, she will take the pawn, and it will be a draw. And I completely forgot that I don't have to draw back here. I can just go king f3, and I'm winning according to the engine. Wow, because if she takes, again, now I can take, and queen, make a queen, and this is a winning endgame. Technically winning. Well, requires some technique, but of course, most likely I win this. And I completely forget the fact that she's not even threatening. And if she does nothing, well, she can go here, but then knight d4 and knight f5 wins material, wins at least the knight. If rook g7, then knight f5, and the rook is attacked, the knight is attacked, and then I'll just take the knight. And she cannot even take this, because this will be a discovered check, and she will lose the rook. So I'm winning. I didn't see it, unfortunately, guys. I'm sorry for disappointing you. Here, after rook g6, I didn't realize that my knight can stay put. I thought my knight has to run, and I calculated that if I check her, she'll just go here. No, not here. What did I calculate? Yeah, I saw that if she goes here, this is a pin. This is definitely what I saw. But I thought that she'll just go back, and I have nothing else. Nothing to do. Turns out that still I can repeat and do the same thing, king f3 here. But I didn't see this idea of king f3. So yeah, so I decided that a check is not working here. And then I thought, okay, I'll go knight f4, attacking the rook, and putting pressure on this pawn. Of course, she takes. And then I thought, of course, I can take this pawn, and if she takes, I'll take the rook. But I thought it's not enough. This pawn will not queen. So I went for e6, at least trying some mating threats, mating attempts. But of course, she finds it, knight f5, and here I offer a draw, and the draw is accepted, because everything will be taken, and this is a draw. A knight cannot mate a lone king or a king with a knight. So unfortunately, I don't squeeze out this win, but it was a fascinating game. I'm proud of myself for finding some good maneuvers. My opponent played very impressive chess. Even though she didn't know this variation, she defended very impressively and deserved the draw. So I think it's not bad. At least I've gained some rating points after this game also, and after the tournament. I didn't score well. I scored 3 out of 10 points, but I was seeded 119th out of 121 players in this tournament in the Masters group. So I was practically the lowest seeded player, and I didn't finish last. I finished maybe 15 places above my initial placement. So I scored 1 win, 4 draws, but for 4 losses in a row in the first half of the tournament, it would have been even better. But still, I've gained 12 rating points in this tournament, and it was very instructive, a good lesson, and I will continue playing and making recaps for you and making podcasts for you guys. Please show some love in the comments. I tried to deliver interesting chess and good content for you, so I hope you've enjoyed it. See you in the next one. Bye bye.